All right, you guys. Well, Promise David continues to elevate his name in Europe. The 6'5" Canadian striker scored the other day. It was a game winner in Union Saint-Gilloise' 1-0 Champions League win over Galatasaray, and that was after he was already reportedly on the radar of a number of Premier League sides, including West Ham. So, Ollie, I'll start with you. In your opinion, in theory, would a move to the EPL make sense for Promise?
In time, I would love to see it, but I think that's the key thing here is I don't think this needs to be rushed and he should take his time. And I think so far Promise David has done that. I would imagine there was probably an option or two available to him the summer just gone to potentially move after the kind of season he had, a young player who's obviously on the rise. But he decided to wait, and he spoke at that time about not being in a rush and feeling like he's in a really good place where he is and still has a lot of growing and development to do. And you can understand that for a player who's had a really rapid rise from kind of the lower divisions of European football to now playing in the Champions League this season. So I think he was right to do that. I think he should see that through, wait until the end of the season, wait until after the World Cup. It's a big 6 months ahead from him. I think a lot can change in terms of, what he's still got in front of him with club and country. And at that point, I think you'll be in a much better position to assess what's the right next step, what's going to make sense for him. Obviously, seeing a Canadian player and particularly a striker in the Premier League would be exciting, but I think there's going to be a lot of options out there in the future for him.
Yeah, AGR, I'm curious if you're on the same page. I think patience might be key here. He has said that he feels he's playing his best football in Belgium right now.
Yeah, well, there's always the challenge you face as a player. You want to strike when the iron's hot. I guess pun's sort of intended because it is the irons that are interested in Promise David. But this is a World Cup year. This is when you do have to be a bit patient. You have to understand that you don't want to lose your spot when such a key moment is going up. I think we know at this stage Promise David, unless something wild happens, he will be in this World Cup squad, but he doesn't know what role he's going to play. There's a chance he could be a starter. There's a chance he's playing a bit part role. What's nice at Union Saint-Gilloise is they trust him. It was a very shrewd move for them to bring him in from Estonia. And either way, they're going to win here, as they tend to do in the transfer market. They do such great business. And it was a credit to Promise David that even when, we have to remember, there were some Premier League clubs, some Ligue 1 clubs that were looking at him, some Bundesliga clubs, but he decided why not stick around at Union Saint-Gilloise, play in the Champions League. He scored twice in the Champions League. That's proven to be a good decision, up to 9 goals in all competitions. All he has to do is just keep doing his thing. The goals are going to keep coming. World Cup year, if he can get a good role with Canada, West Ham will be around. I think the one thing you worry about a move at this time of year, if you go, you are going to a team that's on the wrong half of the Premier League table, one that's gotten off to a difficult start. They are under a new manager. We know that Nuno can be a good manager. We saw what he did with Forest. But if that offer is there in the summer and there's a bit more stability, again, that adds another reason. So I think that you can understand why his head would be turned, but I think you got to wait to the summer, and I think then it will make sense.
Yeah. And I want to go back to what you said about him not necessarily knowing what his role will be with Canada ahead of next summer, because every international window, at least for us, the sentiment is unanimous, right? We want to see Promise David playing more minutes for the national team. But during the previous window, he didn't start either match and logged a total of 15 minutes. Now, it is also important to note that he did score in that 2-0 win over Venezuela. But given the circumstances, and despite all this, where do we see him falling in the depth chart? And as a follow-up, I guess, is he being underutilized, Ollie?
Yeah, I personally think he is. Obviously, we've talked about this, for several months now. I would like to see at least, I'm not saying that Promise David needs to be the outright starting number 9. I think we obviously still need to see more evidence there, but just see more of a balance in the minutes distribution. I think it's been pretty heavily weighted towards that Tani Oluwaseyi, Jonathan David combination. It was 74 minutes across the 6 friendlies for Promise David. It's like it's not even a full 90 across 6 games, right? And you just feel like a player that is doing what he is doing in European football, has the kind of skill set that he possesses, position where there is not like a clear-cut regular goal scorer, I think, for Canada right now, was maybe worthy of a bit more than that. And that was perhaps the opportunity to kind of see what you have with him a bit more. So I was a bit disappointed that he didn't play more. I think the reality is right now in Jesse Mart's depth chart, he's obviously behind Jonathan Davids, who plays in a bit of a different role anyway. He's behind Tani Oluwaseyi, and I think he might still be behind Carl Larin as much as he's out of form for club and country right now, just in terms of how Jesse Marsh sees it. The one thing that he has to his advantage. And again, I think this would kind of lean towards staying with the club you're at, is he's the only one of like almost the entire striker pool for Canada who hasn't made a move in the past few months. And you got a lot of guys who are like battling for minutes, trying to settle in for new clubs under new coaches right now. He has, although he has a new coach, has a bit more stability playing for the same team for the second consecutive season. So that could, I think, maybe play in his favor a little bit going into next year if the other players are still trying to, find those regular starts and minutes.
Yeah, I think he absolutely is being underutilized, because either way, with Jesse Marsch, we know we talked about it, earlier in the week, that the reality is Promise David, Tani Oluwaseyi, they can work a lot more in tandem. But to look specifically at Promise David off the back of this week, just the fact that he's played 74 minutes, like Ollie mentioned, that across the entirety of this year, he's played 201 minutes. It's just not enough. Even if he's not ready for a starting role in Jesse Marsch's eyes, if he's not able to handle the intensity he wants his team to press with, the amount of running he needs to do, it feels like there's no way that he can't be playing 30 off the bench. Just come in that last 30. Tani Oluwaseyi, what he does great is he runs defenses ragged. Feels like Promise David is primed to capitalize on the spaces left behind. And then when you see what he does against Venezuela, where he comes in again a little later than you'd like him to in a 1-0 game, field is stretched, he finds the soft spot in the box, gets open, puts the ball in the net. You're like, you can see that coming from Promise David. And we'll be interested to see how he's used in 2026, because you can debate if he's a starter, if he's off the bench. Maybe there's a role where, like we also mentioned, you kind of have to, maybe you're playing a game where the game's going to be a little more stretched and you start Tani Oluwaseyi and then you play a low block and you try Promise David and you're starting both in different games. But no matter what, it feels like Promise David should be playing more than these 5-10 minute cameos. You should be elevating him to 30-minute cameos. And ultimately, he scores goals. He scores goals. And for a Canadian team that doesn't do enough of that, that has to be factored in, even if he maybe isn't hitting the same pressing metrics as the other strikers like Tani Oluwaseyi.
Yeah, and Ollie, just to close out on this segment, I'm curious to know your opinion. Is this situation in terms of Promise climbing the ranks with the national team a matter of him needing to show more with club, or do you think he's naturally maybe just not Jesse Marsch's style of striker?
I think it's more the latter. Like it's difficult to show more when you're not getting the opportunity really to be on the pitch and do so, right? And you're getting very limited minutes. I can imagine, and I don't know this because I haven't seen him train up close, but I can imagine a player like that. Sometimes strikers who are all about kind of the goal scoring, all about their physicality, come to life on match day, are not always the best players in training, right? Like there can probably be some bad days in that regards, and in terms of some of these guys, just based on similar players I've seen in the past, but. At some point, like you have to, like AGR alluded to, you have to look at what he does for his club week in, week out. You have to look at, like, this isn't a fluky run of a few weeks or a few months now. It's been a season and a half. You look at his underlying numbers, they're even better than his actual goal scoring output at times. Like this guy's for real. He scores goals. He causes chaos in the box. He's a massive physical presence. Like you just have to unleash it, I think, at some point and see what kind of effects it has. And if it doesn't work out, then you've got other options that you know and trust. But it seems like a missed opportunity not to have seen it more over the past 3 months.
Well, it's it. Clubs like West Ham aren't, coming in for a striker who they feel can't produce in the Premier League. We know about the physicality, but Ollie mentions the underlying numbers too. That's the biggest thing that stands out. He generates so many big chances. His XG is off the charts. He just has such an eye for the net too, and I think that's that sort of stuff you can't really teach for a striker. And the fact that it's been a year and a half, this hasn't been a flash in the pan, because he could have very well flamed out after Estonia. You played Estonia, you make a big jump up to the Belgian league. He has the season of his life on a Belgian league winner. He goes to the Champions League. He doesn't stop. It's genuinely the fact that it's been so consistent now. To be fair, one thing I will say, Promise David, we have to remember, he doesn't come into the fold until March of this year. Jesse Marsch has proven with a lot of guys, he likes to give guys 6 to 12 months to really embed, learn the system. Nico Seeger committed all the way last September. We didn't really see him become a regular till March this year. There's other examples. Tani Oluwaseyi, he committed right at the start of the Jesse Marsch tenure. We didn't see him really become the guy till this year. next camp will be a year since Promise David's in. I wonder if, having been around in that environment for as long as he has, is where Jesse Marsh will start to trust him, because I think Promise David is done more than enough for club and even in his limited minutes for country to show that he can have a bigger role in this national team in 2026.
Yeah, and I think the key word, just to go back to Ollie's comment too, is unleash. Unleash Promise David. I love that. He's been a fun player to watch and obviously has built a rare resume amongst Canadian players. So we'll continue to follow him. Hopefully see him more in the national team jersey.